I think it's common knowledge at this point that the guys over at Vanillaware are artistic geniuses, and with the power of HD behind them, it's safe to assume they'd be capable of making a masterpiece. But did you know it was never meant to take this long? George Kamitami has been wanting to make this game ever since the Sega Saturn. Fresh off his work with Princess Crown, he wanted to make a high fantasy beat-em-up that was distinctly old school, yet also introduced elements that advanced the genre. He pitched this thing for 10 years. Then he suddenly remembered, oh yeah, I've got a highly successful team that's basically 100% artists, why don't we just make it ourselves? Now that it's out, the only question left is, was it worth the wait? In Dragon's Crown, you play as one of 6 adventurers who will travel the land in search of fame and wealth, dealing with evil magic, ancient artifacts, political intrigue. Okay, look, I'm not even gonna mince any words. We are not breaking new ground in terms of narrative here. What makes it special is the style in which it's presented. Instead of scenarios unfolding themselves as if you're there, you have a persistent narrator reading off the events around you like a storybook. This wouldn't have worked if the narrator wasn't up to snuff, but luckily he's very pleasant to listen to, and always puts emphasis right where it needs to be. If I had to come up with a comparison, it's like playing Dungeons & Dragons, except with Morgan Freeman as your DM, complete with owlbears. Even if you absolutely hate the narrator, there's a free DLC pack out right now that lets you replace him with the voice actors of any of the 6 playable characters, so you'll inevitably find one that works for you. You can even set it to the class you're currently playing as a way to make the story more personal, because God knows the missions won't do that. See, no matter which class you play as, the story missions you go through will always be the same. The upside to this is how it accommodates for multiple characters on the same save file. Depending which character takes the mantle of Player 1, you'll be following their own unique progression through the narrative and quest lines. This makes it very easy to have multiple people playing the game, because let's say you get a couple levels ahead of your friend on your own time, but they haven't caught up to you in the story. You can use the fact that you're vastly overpowered for the area they're currently in to help them get up to your point faster. You've already earned it once, so I don't see it as cheating, but that's the point. You already earned it once. I imagine this might get boring if you're playing solo, having to go through identical events over again just because you want to know how the wizard plays, but at least every character plays differently enough to change your approach to those events. Yeah, let's be real, what really makes or breaks a good beat-em-up is a solid core of gameplay. You want the tools to smash the holy hell out of everything in your path, and you want it to be fast, chaotic, and just complex enough to stay interesting for hours. And Dragon's Crown delivers just that. Impacts are satisfyingly meaty, spells can cover the whole screen, there's treasure absolutely everywhere, and somehow every single boss has been made with different mechanics and ideas to keep you on your toes. That character select screen ain't just for show, you know. All these guys really do play completely differently, especially once you level up a bit and start getting into their special abilities. At first, the elf may seem really simple. She shoots arrows, but then you can start applying fire and poison to those arrows. Oh wait, now she has the ability to carry extra daggers with her going into any stage? And they can do bonus damage if you apply the extra brain power necessary to position her behind the enemy? And what's that? There's a common skill that allows her to make the daggers last much longer than usual, making them even more effective? See, all your skills are designed to work with the playstyle you've chosen, making it evolve in new, interesting ways as you get more accustomed to the game. I can't say the same for your equipment, however. Instead of making everything feel unique and special, every piece of equipment you find from chess takes the Diablo route, where they're assigned random special abilities that may or may not be important to you. Sure, some of them may prevent you from getting knocked down as much or give you bonus elemental powers, but if you're not a stat hound like me, you probably won't even notice the difference between a vibrant edge bow and a vacuum self bow, except that one does more damage. Beat-em-ups are always more fun with friends though, and Dragon's Crown is no exception. That is the point of having a party after all, that everyone can do different things. However, if you're playing solo or don't have a full group of 4, you do have options. For one, you might find the bones of fallen adventurers strewn across the floors of the dungeons you explore. If you pick these up, you can take them back to the temple and resurrect them as computer-controlled party members. The AI actually does a fairly good job keeping itself alive against most enemies, but traps are another story. If they're standing on a pool of fire, they will not be smart enough to walk off, so beware any kind of trap if you're rolling with a crew of computers. You also have the option to play with people over PlayStation Network, but you won't unlock this feature for a whopping 9 dungeons! Well, look on the bright side. At least everyone you meet online will already more or less know what they're doing. In fact, this is where the game really starts to pick up. You can roll on your own path or join up with other adventurers in their game. At the end of every dungeon, you have the option to either go back to town or continue on through random locations, with the added incentive of more gold, score bonuses, and better loot for the taking. Just be aware that your life points, aka the number of times you can die without penalty, will stay the same if you press on, so yeah, tread carefully, friends. I know this is the same excuse they gave another infamous JRPG of our generation, but this game really does get better after you sink a few hours into it. Except unlike that game, which started bad and then became tolerable, Dragon's Crown starts off good and then gets great. Savvy? Do I even need to talk about the art? It's Vanillaware. Of course it's gonna look amazing. Their signature hand-painted style has been leaving players in awe for years now, and their first foray into the next generation is no different. Seriously, if you're not playing this game in HD, you may as well not play it at all, because you're missing out on one of the best parts. The level of detail is what really makes this world come to life. The people you meet and the places you go all have tons of character despite their lack of individual voices, and it's all thanks to how well they've been realized visually. Everywhere you go, it's nothing but vibrant visuals, fun designs, and Alright, I've been dancing around this the whole review. Yes, this game has got some controversy because of the way it depicts female characters, and I figure it's time I gave my own 2 cents on the matter. First off, let me preface this by saying I am not making any judgment calls on Vanillaware or anyone who works there. I don't know these people personally, and therefore realize it would be out of line for me to make assumptions about their character. This is purely observation of the work itself. Now, I'm a child of the internet. I don't even bat an eye at breasts so big they could shatter car windows, so I realized I wasn't the best person to make a call on this, and therefore staged a test. I know 4 women well enough to let them into my room and see this game. And every single one, when they got to this point in the opening movie, audibly pointed out how ridiculously large the sorceress's breasts were. I expected maybe one of them to do this, but it was the consistency of it that caught me off guard. Like I said, I don't pay attention to it, but when 100% of the women in my life are focused on this to the point of distraction, I begin to realize there might be something here I'm not seeing. However, allow me to provide a counter-argument, and why I'm willing to forgive this. You know why fantasy is fun? It's in the definition of the word. The appeal of fantasy is that it's nothing like reality. Look at me. My arms have better jiggle physics than Dead or Alive Extreme. If I'm gonna do something as epic as fight dragons, I don't want to play as myself. I would get my pasty ass torn to shreds. Now let's say I was given the option to wear inch-thick armor and have muscles so big they could deflect bullets, or be this mysterious being that could cast down lightning so strong it makes the room shake. Now you're talking, and that's why fantasy is fun. It doesn't have to follow our rules. Fantasy is loud, it's colorful, it's over the top, it's bloody, it's beautiful, and it is big beyond your wildest imaginations. Vanillaware gets that. Whether it was inspired by Lord of the Rings, Dungeons & Dragons, or even Disney, Dragon's Crown is a celebration of everything George Kamitani loves about the genre, and you can feel that passion throughout the entire game. I'm willing to forgive how the sorceress is drawn because that's just the kind of world this is, and the game is so much better because it stuck to its theme so consistently. I like it. But just a fair warning, if you're not a big fantasy buff or you don't have a Y chromosome in your system, your mileage might vary. But if you are and you do, please do me a favor. The benefit of being intelligent is that we can all offer different perspectives. The whole point of art is that it's open to interpretation, so unless someone is flat out insulting the developers without any subtlety or nuance, don't immediately jump down their throat for not agreeing with you. I'm not so big of a fanboy that I can't see why somebody wouldn't be off-put by this. Gugh. What else is there to say about Dragon's Crown? Yeah, it has its audience, but those in that audience are gonna have a great time with this game. It's a solid beat-em-up with a beautiful world and fantastic set pieces. It's a blast with friends and gets even more rewarding the better you get at it. Not bad for a game that's been in development longer than Duke Nukem Forever, eh? Vanillaware? Well done.